Good morning. Michigan's new Marshall Plan is now law, but where will all of the working talent of the future come from? A number of efforts are underway to move our state in the right direction. Clorinda Barnett Harrison and Ishmael Ahmed will be here to tell us. And later, we remember an NFL trailblazer who left his mark on Detroit and this country. It's Sunday, November the 18th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight as we talk about workforce development, growing talent throughout this city and throughout this state, and how that maybe ties into the governor's Marshall Plan that he got through the legislature before he moved on to brighter pastures. And leading off this discussion is Clorinda Barnett Harrison with United Way. Now, I love your title. Your title is Director of Economic Prosperity.
That's right.
You got to wake up every morning and look at your business card, and you can't get in a bad mood, right?
That's right. That's right. It really is about ensuring that every person, regardless of where they start in life, has an opportunity to achieve sustained economic mobility.
Right, and that ties into one of the, is it 3 or 4 pillars of the United Way?
3 pillars. So economic prosperity is one of the 3. The others are basic needs and health and education.
Okay. Now, we know that the governor rolled out the Marshall Plan, did all the politicking you had to do. He got that through the legislature.
That's right.
Millions of dollars going into this. Now the next stage is making it work. So we've got a new law, but can we sustain this, and are we really growing the talent? What does this region need?
Really, we need a strong and concerted effort to realize that in some ways we are where we need to be. We recovered from the recession. We are at full employment in this state. But
unemployment is low.
Unemployment is low, that's right. And so we have a circumstance, though, where we recognize there are pockets of our community that don't necessarily have the skills needed in order to access jobs that are open.
What pockets would those be when you say that? What are we talking about?
We're talking about communities in Detroit, Pontiac, and other communities around the region where we have higher unemployment than the regional and state average.
Okay. We know that there's been a lot of discussion about bridging the business community with the public sector, with nonprofit. How's that going?
I think it's an amazing feat, but we have lots of good corporate citizenship who are engaged in making sure that our talent is prepared and that they are able to access family-sustaining wages. For instance, we have the Mayor's Workforce Investment Board that is led by DTE and Strategic Staffing Solutions. And having that corporate leadership at the helm of ensuring that workforce development is something that we constantly think about, it's not an afterthought, is really important.
Ishmael Ahmed, who we'll hear from in a little bit, and a number of other movers and shakers, just recently were involved in a forum at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. What was the purpose of that?
It's focused on opportunity youth. At the United Way, we have focused on young people from prenatal to 12th grade and ensuring that they have access to choices that can lead them into a college or career. Opportunity youth, however, are defined as 16 to 29-year-olds who are not connected to employment or education. So these are young people who are disconnected from structures, systems, and support that can really help advance them economically. So this conference was about making sure that we wrap our arms around those young people and re-engage them, making certain that they have access to the same opportunities that everyone else does.
And what better place to do that than on a college campus?
That's right.
What do you hear from young people when you go to that campus or any other campus? Because I know that you interact with young people all the time. What is it that they're saying we want and we need to be able to become part of this next workforce?
They really want to be heard. And they want the same opportunities that any other person in our citizenry wants. And so young people are looking for guidance to ensure that they have choices. So we recognize that for some young people that's going into higher education, whether it's community college or traditional four-year universities. But in many cases, it's really trying to find ways to enter into the workforce. And so making certain that we have a very strong initiative that is focused on their needs and really galvanizing young people and getting them engaged into those opportunities.
You've touched on it, but I want you to just drill down a little bit more. The Detroit Regional Workforce Fund.
That's right.
What is that?
The Detroit Regional Workforce Fund is a funders collaborative. It includes the United Way, but also General Motors, Kellogg Foundation, JP Morgan Chase, and PNC Bank. And we come together on a regular basis to not only pool our funds targeted towards workforce development and advancing opportunities for our population, but also addressing strategic systems change so that we can make certain that our community in Detroit and around the region has the resources that it needs in order to make sure people can access employment.
I keep hearing that at the community college level that population is growing exponentially, and maybe even more so than the four-year colleges. One, because it's more affordable. It's also closer to people's homes, all of those reasons above. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yes, it is accessible. We have programs in Detroit and other places around the region. In Detroit, it's called Detroit Promise. The United Way is an avid supporter of Detroit Promise. And one of the things that it was initiated on is making college affordable for all young people. There are some universities that participate. In fact, University of Michigan Dearborn is one of them. But all of the community colleges around the region participate as well. That means that it is free for Detroit students who graduate from schools in this city to attend college at a community college and the participating four-year universities.
A couple quick final questions. I know that you're also on the board of Teen Hype,
yes.
Organization I'm familiar with. Very bright young people, very impressive young people who some of them come from difficult backgrounds, but yet they don't let that interfere with where they want to go. Your interaction with that organization and others, those young people, what are the opportunities for them?
You know, many of the young people from Teen Hype specifically go to college, but that is because organizations like that really try to cultivate a college culture from a very young age. They start working with young people as young as 13, right out of middle school, to begin cultivating them and getting them comfortable with the idea that they have a future and helping them every step of the way to access that opportunity that they believe is right for them. The unfortunate thing, though, is that we don't have enough capacity. We don't have enough Teen Hypes. And that's why the United Way is leading the charge in making sure that our investments are to help build capacity and build more structured initiatives to help opportunity youth, or to avoid young people or prevent young people from being disconnected.
Final question, I'm going to also ask Ishmael Ahmed, who's been in this community for such a long period of time. Are you optimistic about where we are headed, at least on this side of the state, as we look out at all the economic development going on?
I am optimistic because we are having the right conversations. We recognize that there is growing economic inequality, but we are doing things about it. We are focusing on opportunity youth, returning citizens, and individuals who are lacking skills to get family-sustaining wage employment. And because we are having that conversation and making investments and partnering with the private sector and the public sector, we know that we have a shot at making this work for our economy.
All right. Clorinda Burnett Harrison, thank you so much for joining us on Spotlight today and engaging us in this topic. We will continue this topic when Ishmael Ahmed comes up in just a second. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is Ishmael Ahmed. He is the senior advisor to the chancellor, the new chancellor at the University of Michigan Dearborn. Welcome. Good having you.
Good to see you again.
Good seeing you again.
Yeah,
it's been a little while.
Yeah.
First of all, how's it going with the new chancellor?
He's a great guy, and I think he's going to take us to new places.
Great.
Yeah.
We're optimistic about that. We'll have to get him on Spotlight at some point.
Oh, that'd be great.
Right. You were also involved in this forum that you had at the University of Michigan Dearborn about growing talent and opportunity for our youth. How did it all go?
Well, it went really well. We've had foundations from all over the region and national foundations who are focused on education and workforce development. We had lots of nonprofits who are interested in Opportunity Youth, as well as the workforce people from the city of Detroit, educators from Wayne State, U of M Dearborn, Henry Ford Community College, Dearborn Public Schools, Detroit Public Schools. So a really good group of people, and what we were focused on is how do we change all this? There are, depending on how you count, the old Obama administration described them as Opportunity Youth between the ages of 18 and 30. Today, or this week, we focused on the question of 16 to 24. And even with that number, that small number, the city of Detroit, we're talking about somewhere between a quarter of the young people in that age not being able to go to work or go to school. And for the region, about 85,000 of them.
That's a lot of numbers. So as you start to look at the numbers and crunch the numbers, you must have gotten a signal that we've got to get to them earlier.
We do have to get to them earlier, but we also have to get to those that are in that place now. And so it requires several strategies. So we're talking about policy change, we're talking about greater resources to make this happen, and we're talking about strategizing for the future as well as today.
And what is it you need most that perhaps you don't already have?
Well, I think Detroit is behind the ball on this, not just the city of Detroit, but the region. Nationally, groups
compared to other major cities.
That they've taken up the work on this and are making progress, and we need to have a plan. And we have to have strategies, and we have to have resources, and we have a long way to go there.
Yeah. How does this all fit into the governor's Marshall Plan?
I think the Marshall Plan was one step. I think the new governor is very much focused on this. When she was running, she visited the Public Allies Program, which is a program for Opportunity Youth, and pledged to help. And I think she will be all over this. As much as she is able to with the legislature that they have, I think she will focus on this as one of the problems, just like the roads or just like Medicare and Medicaid and health care and all of that kind of stuff.
You've worked in Lansing, you've worked for a gubernatorial administration, so you know the process.
Right.
I would imagine that all the work that Governor Snyder put into getting this Marshall Plan through, that during this transition period that we're in now, that there's going to be some good conversations between the governor and the governor-elect about, okay, I pushed hard to get this. This is where you really need to go. And you make it sound like it's probably going to be, they'll be on the same lane.
Well, I think so. I think the new governor will be even more aggressive on it. That's just my guess. And I know that they're talking to each other. Folks in transition have been sharing that with me. So I really have a lot of hope. But I also have hope for some of the groups that were involved in the discussion, the foundation community. United Way, I believe, is looking to make an announcement about this down the line. And I think what we also have to see are things like pipeline programs for young people who maybe don't do well in calculus right now into universities and colleges. I know that talked to both our chancellor and Henry Ford's new president, Henry Ford Community College's new president, and this is an area that they're interested in as well.
All right, I'm going to pick up on that right after this break, and I want to talk about the skilled trades and how this fits into all of this, because I know Jerry Anderson over at DTE has really been pushing that along with several others.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight, talking to Ishmael Ahmed, who's worn so many different hats throughout the years, but all of them, I think, probably challenging and fun hats as well. The skilled trades, Ishmael, that I'm hearing is just huge, and I keep hearing corporations say we cannot find enough skilled workers, but yet we've got a lot of these mandates on us from City Council and others saying you got to reach a certain percentage.
Yeah, there definitely is a shortage in the skilled trades. 2 million people nationally need to be replenished, and more will be leaving the skilled trades, and so bringing people in, but at a higher level. The world is not the same as it once was,
no,
and
not
it
at
will
all.
be much different as we move forward. But I also want to say this, this whole society is changing, and the kind of education that people need, in addition to skilled trades, will require much more education, generally speaking. If you think about it, when I was growing up, I was told when I was 15 that I would have 6 jobs, 6 vocations, and I didn't believe them. I was going to work at the Rouge plant.
Yeah.
Today, it's 16. And
Wow.
you have to be able to work in a diverse workforce. You have to be able to triangulate ideas. You will reinvent yourself over and over again, including in the skilled trades. And so the level of education we need, we have to provide for those that are already in need and those that are coming.
Sure. Talk about some of the key players that have been involved in this.
Well, some of the key programs in Detroit already that are focused on this are the Public Allies program. Also, CERN Metro has a focused area of training on opportunity youth. Access is doing mentoring in, I think, 24, 25 of the high schools to bridge that gap. And there are many others. But in the foundation community, Miriam Nolan and the Community Foundation have played a significant role. Tanya Allen at Skillman,
Sure.
Katie Merkel at the McGregor Foundation, and others are now making a difference. Now, if you take McGregor, for instance, which is focused on poverty, why would they be in this? Because most of these people are young people of color and poor. So there are reasons for the foundation community to be involved, no matter what their focus is, and many of them have come forward. Again, United Way, the Detroit Workforce Development folks are involved. I think with them and the nonprofits that are doing this work and want to get into this work, we can make a difference.
Right. And then I just saw an email the other day from Tammy Conwright over at the Detroit Regional Chamber, I think on November 30th. They've got a big forum coming up with about 180,000 jobs at stake.
Great.
And so they're trying to get people into the pipeline. So I guess the positive news is that everybody's talking about this and everybody's trying to do something about it.
Yeah, my mom used to say, don't talk, do. And that's what we're hoping to have happen.
Quick final question, same thing that I asked Clarinda. You're optimistic as you look at all that's going on here in Southeast Michigan and across the state about where Michigan and Southeast Michigan is headed?
I am. I think that in a lot of places, new things are happening, and there is a focus on what needs to be done. I know at U of M Dearborn, where I work, they're thinking about all kinds of things, AI, they're thinking about how do we bring others into this work, how do we change things in the region, how can we be part of the solution. It's a new way of thinking, and I think that that's really important.
All right, Ishmael Ahmed, always
you,
a
my
pleasure
friend.
talking with you,
Yeah.
and keep up the good work over there at the University of Michigan, Dearborn.
Thank you.
All right, and when we come back, we'll salute a trailblazer in Detroit and the NFL and the Detroit Lions. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. And finally today, a fond farewell to a true professional and Detroit Lions trailblazer, Wally Triplett. He was Penn State's first African-American starter. He was also the first African-American to earn a varsity letter at Penn State and the first African-American Penn player to be drafted into the National Football League. When he arrived at Penn State in 1945, he earned an academic scholarship. While on campus, he also co-founded a chapter of the Alpha Phi Alpha National Fraternity. In the mid-1940s, he and his team stood together when they refused to leave their African-American player at home to play Miami in the segregated South.
And so when it came time for the Penn Staters to look in the campus and the feeling on the campus and the feeling of the ballparks was that if we all don't play, none of us play. And so that was the spirit that caught on.
In 1948, when Penn State was undefeated with a 9-0 record, the team stood its ground once again and integrated the Cotton Bowl. Triplett and one of his teammates became the first African-American players in that bowl game. Triplett caught the game-tying touchdown in Penn State's 13-13 draw with SMU. Last year, he was inducted into the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame. He's been called by some the Jackie Robinson of the National Football League. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions in 1949, becoming one of the first African Americans drafted into the NFL. He also has the distinction of being the first African American to play in a regular season NFL game. He played 18 games for the Lions in 1949 and 1950 and set a number of team records. A little over a year ago, I had the pleasure of visiting Mr. Triplett inside his Russell Woods home. Health challenges prevented him from talking much, but when I asked him about his historic accomplishments on and off the football field, you could see the pride in his smile and the twinkle in his eyes. He watched proudly as I reviewed and admired his press clippings, awards, and honors. Wouldn't it be fitting if a statue or bust of Wally Triplett would be prominently on display at Ford Field or somewhere else of significance in the city of Detroit? Our condolences to his family and friends, many who have been working tirelessly to keep his great legacy alive. I'm Chuck Stokes. Happy Thanksgiving.